Hello everyone, now it's finally my turn to talk. I have been talking at all during the last 24 hours. That wasn't supposed to be funny. And I will talk about, well, I named it the big password picture. And first of all, authentication methods. First one is something you
Forgot.
Yeah, that's pretty close. And the next one, something you
Lost.
forgot at home, and you have probably all forgot your password, battery is dead, the app crashes constantly, like soft tokens, or the CFO will say it's too expensive, so we'll continue just using passwords. And something you
Used to be.
Something you used to be, yeah, young and beautiful. Yeah, well, you need to watch Mythbusters, and you really should look into Minority Report movie as well. Because they, in my opinion, they do say something about, something useful in a way about biometrics. I've got lots of slides, so this talk is, this is not going to be a tech talk. And I spent quite a few hours, I went to bed at approximately 2 a.m. trying to decide which slides will I go through and not. So I have many slides for you, and this is just an attempt to do an overview of some of the things that I've been working on and thinking about. And of course I will end the presentation not by saying thank you, but asking you, would anyone like to get some more work to do, because I have lots of suggestions for you, for free of course. So some stories you would really not believe. Well, maybe except for this audience, of course. So here I'm at the conference, and you have seen these many, many times. Yellow post-its. There's a guy sitting next to me, and here's a phone number, the moderator code, and the participant code to get into the phone conference. And I've been dialing into phone meetings held by the board of directors of several companies before, and I called in there, a couple of minutes before the conference actually started, muted my microphone, and waited until they had introduced themselves and were supposed to start the meeting for the board of directors. And then I would say, hi, this is Pierre Thorsen, and I've just got access to your financial data. Always funny to do. And here I am at my local car dealer. I bought a new Volkswagen Touran last year. And the car dealer had actually a small white note on his wall with the username and the password. Now I have removed the username, but the password is enter123, which is, of course, very hard to remember. And he actually left the room for like 20 minutes, so I was seriously considering giving myself a really good discount on that new car, but I didn't. And some of you may know me from the LinkedIn leak in June. I really need to set the picture straight here. In a way, the leak was discovered by CoreLogic. Correct me if you can. They put out a tweet on Tuesday morning to me, saying that you probably should change your password on all major sites because something really big seemed to have happened. And just like many other people do, when you see a message like that, you will go instantly to the Inside Pro forum in Russia to see if there are any new files being uploaded there. Or you will also go online on Pastebin, Paste to other sites to look for, a really big leak. And on Inside Pro, like, oh, I seem to have lost my 6.5 million passwords. Can anybody help me recover that? It's like, yeah, it's probably that one. So this happened on June 5th, June 6th, and some of the interesting observations from that episode was that they were using unsalted SHA-1, which is, I guess we all agree that it's not that much of a good idea to store your passwords using unsalted SHA-1. But they also, approximately 2 weeks after the incident, they also were interviewed, and in that interview, they actually said, we do not have a chief security officer. And as I have been saying in many other presentations, if you have 160 million customers and you don't have a CSO and you get hacked, do not tell the media that you don't have a CSO. Just point at somebody and say, you're fired because you have a CSO, and now you're gone. But do not say that you didn't have a CSO. Also very interesting, myself, Norwegian SAP, and several other people tried to get hold of LinkedIn and tell them it looks like you have been hacked. They didn't respond. They didn't respond in any channel whatsoever to us. And we tried for several hours. And after that, I decided, well, screw them. I will call the media and say that people should change their passwords at LinkedIn. And even more knowledge based on that one is that the interesting fact is that on June 6th, the stock price of LinkedIn was at $93.08. And for the next following weeks, the stock price actually went up. So what can we learn from this? Well, all security people should be fired, and our new business strategy will be unsalted SHA-1, no CSO, no security, hoping that we'll get hacked, get famous, and get rich. New business strategy. Simple put. Jeremy Gosling did some amazing work on cracking the LinkedIn hashes, just like many others of you did. And he went looking for passphrases. We found a lot of interesting passphrases, of course, and the funniest one is that there's a rock, I think it's a rock band in the US, named Jesus Christ Love Supercar, which was probably, I would say that's what was the most funniest passphrase found. And we also had, based on the presentation from Kirsi Hakkala, because I think it was week 2 after the leak or something, I was actually reading through the paper from Kirsi one more time. And I noticed that you said in the paper that there were students using the primary color of the logo of the service provider as one of their memorable words in their password. So I just went online, Jeremy, did I order you to do it, or did I ask nicely?
What do you think? You ordered me.
Yeah. So I said, Jeremy, you have to do this. What I want you to do is, I want you to search through all the passwords and look for words of colors, like blue, yellow, black, white, and so on, and try to figure out if there are more occurrences of blue compared to red, white, green, and so on. And there's the result. There are many more people in the LinkedIn passwords using the color word blue than other colors in the passwords. Now, it could be coincidence because some other researchers have earlier looked at the use of color on the internet, and they say that the primary color, the most common color on the internet, is blue. So I really want somebody to look into more leaks looking for color words and eventually classify the words found, the base words, into different categories like colors, humans, pet names, and so on, to have a look at what kind of words, type of words, classes of words are most commonly used in passwords. Because that is something that I find really interesting, because that has to do with human psychology to me. This one is nice. Copenhagen Airport, Denmark. You can get paid access for Wi-Fi, or you can get free access. So make your choice, people. Paid access or free access? Well, I went for free access. So in order to get free access, you need to sign up for membership and get free Wi-Fi. So I fill out this really long form, name, address, phone number, sex, age, all kinds of information, and click submit. And then I was told by this genius system, we have now sent you an email with a link that is valid for 10 minutes that you need to click on to verify your account before you will get internet access. So I went for the paid access option. Wonderful. So I'm really interested in security usability as well. And you have probably seen these. This one is one that I tweeted. And this is another one. And here you can see that this is from one of the major property providers in Norway. And they are issuing physical access cards where everyone is being given the same PIN. And then they are encouraged to change it. You don't have to. That's the result. The other one, you can see the grease marks from your fingers, fat, on the keys. Now this is somewhere not really important. And this is London Stansted Airport. That's not really good. This was tweeted last week. Now, University of Cambridge, colleagues from Stefano have made these heat maps of PIN codes, and you can read the entire report here. They are based on PIN codes found in passwords from Rocky, and you also have the data obtained from the Big Brother app for iPhone, where one guy collected approximately 220,000 PIN codes and heat mapped them. And I saw that report, I really liked it, saying that some 78% of us are using one out of as little as 100 different PIN codes. So entropy is kind of really low. And they also say that if they can get hold of 100 Visa cards, as an example, they would be able to guess the correct PIN statistically for 9% of the cards in a maximum of 3 attempts. That's kind of interesting. So what I did, when I was finished at work that day, I was driving back home, and as I usually do, I called my friend and former colleague, Jan Fredrik Leversen, he's Plus on internet, on Twitter, and I said, I like this, and I want something similar. So you have to make it for me, because I can't even do a DOS batch shell in batch script in MS-DOS. So he took the challenge, and the next morning when I woke up, he said, it's done. So you can go online at radical.org/pinmap right now, and then it's client side. Just put in, drag and drop a simple text file that has 1 pin per line, and then we get a heat map pretty similar to that. So we did that for physical access cards, and even though we didn't have that many PIN codes available, we are seeing the same pattern on how people are choosing their own pins. So you have RockU, you have iPhone PIN codes, and then you have physical access cards. This one is fun. Many years ago, I have been primarily cracking Windows passwords for 13, 14, 15 years. During engagements, penetration testing engagements, and security audits. This was for one of, well, it was for somebody, somewhere, in a galaxy far away, a long time ago. And I was working there myself. And I did password cracking from a Windows domain, and I saw that there was one specific user who was using 8 digits as his password. It was easy to crack. And 8 digits in Norway will usually be a phone number. So I looked it up online. Nobody had that number. Okay, it could be a secret number, because you can have yourself a secret or hidden phone number in Norway. So I called that number. There was a woman who replied on the phone, and she used the last name of a very good colleague of mine. So I called my colleague, and I thought, I know the guy pretty well, so I can play a little joke on him. So I called him and said, do you know this number, blah, 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 blah? And he went completely quiet for a couple of seconds. And then he said, how the fuck did you get access to my root password? I didn't, but you just told me. And then he was like, crap. So he was a Unix sysadmin, and he was using the same password, his hidden secret phone number, as his root password and as his Windows password. Password history is a parameter in Windows and other systems that I find really interesting, because on Windows systems you can not only extract the current password, but you can also extract all the old versions of your password that you have been using, given the password parameter. So if you have like a parameter setting of you're not allowed to use the 13 last passwords, then you can extract those 13 password hashes as well. And also this is also one of the things that Jan Fredrik helped me do, is that he actually applied a Levenstein edit distance metrics to those data. So I could have your password like 24 generations back in time. Then he would apply Levenstein edit distance metrics for each and every password, and also do an average value But based on that, it is pretty easy to say that most probably your next password is going to be your current password plus 1. Because on average, the edit distance was very low, actually. If you can use levels like edit distance as, in a way to look for patterns and how you will change your passwords. That also means, and what I try to do is that even if we get compromised today, and I tell all of you to change your password, there's a pretty big chance that 50% of you would do the +1 trick. Now, if I have your current password, I do know something that I might be able to use to catch your next password. If I actually have your 10, 20, 30 last passwords available as well, and I manage to crack all of them, then it makes it much easier to look for what kind of pattern are you using to generate your passwords. Because in 20 generations, you may have changed your password generation algorithm 1 or twice or maybe 3 times. But if you have the entire history, it gets much more interesting to look at the history and try to look for patterns in it. So I like really not analyzing just current passwords, but password history of users and accounts. So simply put, password history can actually be a really bad thing for you and for your company, your organization, unless you do it some way correct. And most organizations are doing password history totally wrong. Also, when it comes to passphrases, I think passphrases are a really interesting thing to discuss. And 2 days ago, Sunday evening, I went into Jeremy, and I said, Jeremy, when you did the analysis of the LinkedIn passwords, how did you actually say that this is a passphrase and this is not a passphrase? And I'm sorry, Jeremy, but I didn't really like the way you explained it to me, because what I think, and there's a paper from Cambridge that talks about passphrases, and essentially what they are saying in that paper is that they have been researching a little bit into passphrases, and to them, at the moment now, it only looks to them as passphrases are just marginally better than an ordinary password. I really want us to come up with a better definition of what is a passphrase and what is a password, so it makes it easier to differentiate between them when we are analyzing, leaked passwords as an example. And this one, one of the lab rats that I'm using is my own mother. She is completely not serious. She's not interested in computer security at all. And she's working as a nursery teacher. So she will usually tell me that, as soon as you start exercising, it actually takes care of your own personal security, then I might listen to you talk about passwords. She has a really good point. Your health is actually more important than your passwords. And after this, from XKCD, there was, everybody started to discuss how good or how bad is it to use correct word standard disable. And of course, one of the first things that came up is that, well, if you now decide to use correct word standard disable as your password, then you're like dead fish in the water, period. Because now, from now on, everyone, all hackers will try correct word standard disable when they try to brute force or use dictionary tags. I will give a lot of credit to a girl that actually, still don't know her name. Her Twitter handle is Sackmoves. She also did one of her rare blog posts, Why Passwords Really Suck. She refers to the XKCD, and she is referring to my blog posts as well. Because one of the things that she says, she's an American, and she says that although there might be 100,000 or 600,000 or 200,000 words in the English language, how many words do you think an average American actually knows about?
Hey.
And you guys with Americans started laughing, so that's kind of funny already there. And then you also have, out of the words that you actually know about, how many of those are you actually using in your everyday language? So if we are to say that you will be constructing any kind of passphrase based on words you know, we can actually reduce the key space into words that you will most probably be using, which is a lot less than the number of words you actually know in your head.
Never mind, are able to spell.
Huh?
And that you're even able to spell correct.
Yeah, well, misspelling words, I would say that would make a nice trick for passphrases in a
You
way.
can do that.
So, many years ago, I looked at two different government organizations in Norway that does password policy advice. And if you go look for public advice from the Norwegian government, you will find these two different organizations. And several years ago, I went through their websites looking for, password policy advice, and made two very simple columns and a list of all the different recommendations they do. This is Norwegian, so you can use, Google image translate if you like. But, I mean, these recommendations are completely insane from a usability perspective. The most interesting thing is that there were only 3 recommendations that were actually to be found to be similar on both sides. And they were minimum length of 8, use uppercase and lowercase in your passwords, yes, and last one, use shortened sentences like you would use the first character in each word in a large sentence. And then I replied back to them, so why can't you just write the entire sentence instead? That would be much easier, and you would have a much longer password. So they removed most of that advice, and the advice they are giving today that are unified is pretty close to being what I want them to give out as advice to Norwegian people. So I'm kind of proud of that one. Yay. Marcus, Jimmy, are you here? Marcus? Ah, too early. Germans. Oh. Sorry, guys. He talked about using quite a bit of personal information yesterday on analyzing people's passwords. Now, again, with the help of Jan Fredrik, one of the things that we did, we went through more than 5,000 headshots of people, classifying them in different categories like hair color, facial hair, male or female, and if the people were using glasses or not on these pictures, more than 5,000. And we also had their passwords. So if you are female and have red hair, you have the best passwords on average. While if you do look like a Unix guru, male with a really wild beard and or hair, then you have the worst passwords. And even more interesting, maybe to reflect the real life, we also saw that on average, women prefer length, while men prefer, should I say entropy or should I say variation? Yeah. Yeah, I was talking about passwords actually, yeah, so yeah. When you think about anything else, good, yeah, good, yeah. So, a while ago I went to a conference to talk about, passwords, and there was, and I have a personal company name in English, Good Practice. I prefer the term good practice instead of best practice, because you cannot prove that your advice is the best practice available in the entire world. So I say, I will give you good practice. Something else could be better now or in the future, but I will try to give you good practice advice. So there's this guy coming up with this one, saying that one, in the old times we had old practices and nobody can really remember how that was, but it was really, really old. So we don't talk about that anymore. Then we have bad practice, which is, common phrase. And then there's current practice, what we do today. And then came good practice. And I was like, yay, good practice. Yeah, that's me. And then somebody says, well, there's back practice, and then there will also be next practice. What's that going to be? So, and I already registered the company name, so I was a little unsure what to do. But yeah, I think that's a nice one. So, best practices is, in my head, pretty close to we need to be compliant. Now, how many here really love the term we need to be compliant? Raise your hands.
By love, you mean mock?
No, I actually, no. Love as you would normally interpret it in English, yeah. So, PCI DSS, which some of you know, has these password requirements. A minimum length of 7. It has to be alphanumeric, not mixed alphanumeric, only alphanumeric. You need to change your password every 90 days. And I've been meeting a couple of PCI DSS auditors, and they are really not interested in discussing any kind of trade-off, saying that, if I say that, well, I will do minimum length 15, and in exchange for that, I will tell people that you only have to change your password, every once in a year, or maybe once every second year. They're not even willing to discuss it, because they say, if I will allow you to do that, there's a pretty high chance I will, lose my certification as a PCI auditor. So I really can't do that. That's kind of stupid, because then you're not really interested in giving any advice, you're just protecting your own ass, pretty much. So to me, we're compliant equals crap, for most parts. So applied risk analysis is it's very easy to illustrate. And I have written, a couple of years ago, I wrote a blog post on the official Adcomsoft blog, saying that you really, why you should crack your own passwords. To me, it's pretty simple. If you don't crack the passwords in your company or in your organization, I really don't think you have no idea about what the risk is actually about. You can implement all kinds of measures and countermeasures to prevent your hashes to be stolen and blah, blah, blah. But I really think you need to try to crack them as well, because if you're capable of cracking them in like a couple of seconds, somebody else might do the same thing as well. I'm not a technician anymore. I suck at math. I don't know much about cryptography, and I can't do any kind of programming at all. So I like to look at passwords a little bit more into, in a psychological way. At specialforces.com, that week showed us that there was a male audience, male participants in that forum, and the passwords were, I would say, typically male. While at Hammerlink.com, which is where it was a sex escorting service in Norway, which is illegal in Norway, by the way, and they got hacked last winter in October and November. Approximately 26,000 accounts leaked, and that is most probably the biggest leak ever in Norway so far, 26,000 accounts. Approximately 2,000 women and 24,000 customers, men, in there. And I have never, ever before seen that many foul words and sexually related words at such a site. So what I'm interested in looking for even better is, again, back to this classification of words into, male, female passwords, and can we eventually also adjust our word lists into what kind of service system are you actually attacking to even further do key space reduction when we are not actually brute forcing to do intelligent password attacks. System-generated passwords. Also, I did a blog post about, where essentially I said that your own internal help desk and your external service desk for your customers is essentially your biggest risk in any organization towards your end users. Because if an end user has a problem trying to figure out, so I need to make a good password, how do I do that? Well, if you work at help desk and you're resetting 100 passwords per day, how in the world would you expect them to be good and creative and create good, unique passwords for each and every user diving in? I don't think they will do that. I can actually prove that they don't. Most usually it will be a simple password, and they will forget to ask the user, you need to change it, or set the user must change the password on next log on. They will usually forget to do that, because there's a risk the user will then dive in again and say, I forgot the password, can you reset it even one more time? And Jan Skallik, who is always disagrees with me. Always. He came up with a... Say that? No, yeah, so, yeah. I was waiting for that one. We didn't plan ahead, but he always gives me that answer. And it is blog post on the password meta policy, and in there he had generated a working code online, which is, a random password policy program. So you will select a password, and you will give him a random policy. And if you can't create a password according to that policy at once, the entire policy will change. So that way, every user would have completely unique passwords. And he actually got quoted in the paper of the PhD dissertation from Matt Webb on that one, calling it a noble idea, but would probably be a bit, off, considering security usability.
Someone called it evil yesterday.
Yeah. And there's also something about usernames, because we haven't been talking about usernames. And during my password cracking, I have had access to the username, first name, last name, phone number, sex, age, address, about these users, even pictures of them. And what I have seen that on average, you will find 1 to 2% of all your employees, they will be using their first name, last name, or both of them as whole or part of the password. So, I mean, you can figure out the names of employees in a company, but if you can also figure out the usernames, which is not considered a secret at all, then it gets even easier to get access. So, dial in and say, hi, I forgot the URL address for logging into the webmail system. Well, they will tell you in the help desk. That's what they are there for. Same thing with username. Hi, this is Per Thorsheim, or this is Sebastian Raveux. I forgot my username, and they will tell you because it's not a secret. Then the only thing I'm missing is the password. And, I've got my password as well. Yeah, you're supposed to send it to me by text message. Well, I'm actually calling from Norway right now, and I'm using somebody else's phone because mine doesn't work in Norway. So what would happen, Sebastian? You don't have to answer. Don't answer, actually. Again, the discussion of what is a passphrase, I'm really interested in hearing more about that later on. Do we need a definition of it? I think we do, because it helps us understand what we are actually searching for when we are analyzing password leaks. Am I over time? That's why I have a baseball bat. Can it be done? Simplify Chinese as an example. How on earth would you differentiate between words and phrases using simplified Chinese? Here's my daughter, Windows 8 picture password. I think it has really good usability aspects. Microsoft has 2 blog posts talking about the cryptography security of this solution. But what I haven't seen from Microsoft is anyone doing, a usability study where you will ask people, select a picture, any picture that you have on your phone, on your PC, and then you will use that as a picture password. And on your picture, you can use a dot, a line, and a circle. And the system will look for in which direction will you do your circle. And if you do a line, they will see where you start and where you end up with your line. And you also have just a simple dot. Now on a tablet, it is easy to make circles or lines with your finger, but on a screen, a normal computer screen, you would eventually have to use your mouse, which would make it much more difficult. So then I think, personally, there's a higher chance that people will only be using dots. So I would like to see somebody doing some kind of research, asking people, pick a picture, add a picture, and make 3 symbols. They can be circles, lines, and dots. And then I would like to see what kind of patterns will be generating. Because, again, we can do key space reduction, that if you can steal somebody's tablet when they're using Windows picture password, there's a higher probability we can guess your sequence. Even more interesting, Alcomsoft, Russian company Alcomsoft, discovered that UPEC fingerprint readers If you choose to use that, like I have now on my Lenovo ThinkPad, the fingerprint software is on top of the operating system. So in order to use fingerprint, the software will ask me to provide my Windows password. And then the fingerprint software will actually store my Windows password using reversible encryption. And it's not really that advanced encryption either. It's, well, I would say it's really bad encryption, really. And algorithms have proved that they can very easily decrypt that password. So you have the password stored using a hash algorithm in the operating system, but now suddenly it's also stored using reversible encryption by the UPEX software. I wrote something about this stuff, and then Russian company Passcode made a comment on my blog post on this. Windows 8 picture password as well as PIN is just a toy with lack of security. Here's explained why. This blog post actually shows you that in Windows 8, if you choose to use a PIN code, which can be a minimum of 4 digits and a maximum of 4 digits, because, you know, who would ever need anything else than 640 kilobytes of memory? So you can only do a 4-digit PIN. But if you use a PIN or picture password, then your Windows password will also be stored using reversible encryption. That's regards Microsoft. I'm getting close now. Matt Horan at Wired got hacked. I presume most of you, if not all, have read his story. That story scared me shitless, because they went on one side, on Google, and found a piece of information that was in a way publicly available. And the same piece of information was then being used as a secret at Apple. So they got access to his account. So I really would like somebody to do research into, let's say, the Alexa top 10 or top 100 websites to look at the entire process of registration account, magic questions, magic secrets that are being used, and compare them to each other to look, are there any other loopholes where we can actually find public information at one site that can be used to get access to another site. I got really scared about that one. Couple of ideas, we can discuss that later on because I'm way over time, as I always am. But here are a few ideas that I would like to see happen. I will also put out the slides, so I will, in a couple of minutes, so I'll also tweet a link to my presentation, even with more links available on the handouts. And my big picture password is this. A couple of weeks, months ago, there was a teenage girl here in Oslo who got kidnapped and killed. And the police, Norwegian police, were using, among other things, they found her cell phone and one shoe at the site where she most probably got kidnapped. And as far as I know, they got access to her Facebook profile and tried to use that and other information as well to see if there were any suspicious information that could help the police find her, because they found her after, I think it was a week, 2 weeks dead. And I was called by a Norwegian newspaper, and they asked me, do you have any opinion on the police accessing her phone and her Facebook profile? Because in the media, they were saying that the police still doesn't have got access to her Facebook profile. So I replied back to them something that I have been doing for 12, 13 years. I've been telling people to write down their passwords. And what I said was quoted in 79 newspapers in Norway. 79, so that's pretty much all the newspapers in Norway. What I said is, I want you to talk to your teenage kids, and I want you to tell them to write down a PIN code for the telephone, their Facebook password, their mail password, Instagram and Twitter, on a piece of paper. Put it into an envelope, close it, and on the front say, write down for emergency purposes only. And put that up in their rooms, so that if they do get kidnapped, which we are actually not hoping for, their passwords have been written down, and that will help us and the police to find them. And that's a really good reason for why you should write down your passwords. And by that, I'm not going to say thank you for listening. I would say, do you want more work to do? Please contact me. Hell yeah. Thank you.